As kids, we all drew as kids, right? We liked to draw. And then at a certain point, maybe around age 7 or 8, our teachers told us, okay, stop drawing and listen and only read. And I think that's a big mistake, because drawing reflects the way that we see the world and we think about the world and we understand the world. And I came to this conclusion as a cartoonist especially, maybe sometime in my 20s, when I realized by trying to plan something ahead of time, it's a mistake. And if I just trusted the drawings on the page and let the drawings not only control the story, but to create their own story, which was already in my mind, that the pages and the work that I was doing suddenly came alive in a way that I had never expected they could.
Creiem que una de les claus d'aquesta exposició era centrar-nos o col·locar el focus en el llenguatge i no tant ensenyar al públic i als visitants a llegir les pàgines de Word, sinó directament demostrar com aquestes pàgines d'alguna manera s'activen amb la mirada a través d'estratègies i dispositius molt diferents. Els amants del còmic ja havíem descobert tot això del que posen en pràctica Acme Novelty Library, però després Jimmy Corrigan va donar l'oportunitat de que guanyessis molts més lectors, i a Jimmy Corrigan realment hi ha molt desplegament de recursos, però a mi m'agradaria esmentar especialment la manera en què els teus personatges interpreten. Jo crec que els teus personatges són molt bons actors. L'escena en la que Jimmy Corrigan està parlant per telèfon amb la seva mare, la manera en què el seu llenguatge corporal ens parla de la seva timidesa, de la seva inseguretat, de la relació de poder i d'amor odi que hi ha entre ell i la seva mare, és increïble.
My attempts at trying to communicate inner human emotion via gesture and posture and all those things that we do every day as people. I mean, I think it's one of the things that comics can do best if you can handle it right. I feel especially then, I felt very uncertain of my ability to do it, and it felt rather exaggerated when I would go back and reread it, and I would sometimes have to tone it down, like sometimes it seemed a little overacted or a little stagey. As a cartoonist, or even as any kind of artist, you have to think, how are these things going to live in somebody's memory? Because that's really where art lives. It first exists as a thing, either as a painting or a movie or a book, and you experience it, but really the fundamental value of it is how you remember it.
Llegint-te ens hem anat adonant compte de que el factor humà és al centre de la teva obra. De tota manera, tu tens molts altres interessos. Building Stories també revelava el teu gust i la teva fascinació per l'arquitectura, i aquesta idea de les estructures intrincades, després a Rusty Brown parles també de com els floquets de neu, que tenen aquesta estructura única, permeten també entendre l'estructura d'una narració que implica diversos personatges, i allà jo també crec que arribes a dos particulars cims. Un d'ells és la manera en què t'apropes a un personatge com Jason Lynn a través de la corrent de consciència. Crec que en còmic no s'havia fet mai això, o no s'havia fet d'una forma tan precisa, tan acurada i tan sofisticada. I després Joanna Cole, que realment jo crec que és el cim d'aquesta mirada humanista, perquè és una figura que acabem percebent directament com una persona real.
That's been kind of my aim all along, is just to, as I get older and hopefully become slightly more skilled at understanding human life and other people, that I can also maybe write about it in a more precise and honest and real way. I mean, and it kind of reflects what I think we all try to do as human beings, is just to simply try to be better people and to understand other people.
Jo crec que ho veig com una prolongació d'aquesta mirada humanista, tot el que fas per New Yorker, on directament és el moment en el que estàs més en contacte amb la realitat, i en la realitat d'un moment que està realment canviant.
I don't do political artwork, mostly because it doesn't have much of a shelf life. I'm more interested in writing something that'll communicate to people who haven't been born yet. So when I write about something that's political, it's about how it affects people's everyday lives, not about, say, the politicians themselves or the situations themselves. But I think if I can write about everyday people's lives, which I try to do on the covers of the New Yorker, specifically with things that I have either experienced directly or heard about or seem suggested by experiences that I've had. One of the covers portrays a crossing guard in an African-American neighborhood. She's an African-American woman who would get so mad at people not paying attention to her, asking them to slow down and stop, that she would take her stop sign and bang it on the ground. One of the covers in the exhibition came from just simply witnessing that at a time in American history, which I guess it is now, say 5 or 6 years ago, when all of a sudden white people started seeing the police abuse, if not police killings, of African Americans, which is something that's been going on for decades and decades, that white people just simply weren't necessarily seeing. But all of a sudden, that was made apparent because of this new technology. So I try to write about how things affect us as people, not the larger political issues, if that makes any sense at all.
El que és cert és que aquesta és una retrospectiva, però tu tens encara molta carrera per davant, no? Hi ha molts projectes oberts, i per acabar aquesta conversa m'agradaria preguntar-te una mica com veus aquest futur, no?
I sort of feel like I'm at a midpoint in my life, and I have a lot left to do. I'm working on 3 books and continue to work on them, and will do for many years. And I try to get better with everything I do, and there's so many young cartoonists working so hard and trying to get at something a little bit finer, sense of reality and human life. I see some of the best comics being done coming out of Europe, actually. Olivier Schrouwen's Sunday, he's a Belgian cartoonist living in Germany. Miguel Villa in Italy is a wonderful artist. Maria Medem here in Spain, Ana Galvin in Spain. There's a civility here that is eroding away quickly in America. And there's a trust between people here, and there's a respect for other people and a respect for art. You have something here that is very fragile and special. It makes me feel hopeful when I'm here, and I want you to hold on to it and try to cultivate it in the way that you are. It's a really wonderful, delicate thing. And I thank you for letting me be a small part of it.